Is there any update on Joel and his mask? There's some talk about him maybe not wearing it or an alteration tomorrow.
Not that I'm aware of.
How do you go about keeping the same momentum that you had at home when you take it onto the road to a different spot?
Sorry, I missed that.
How do you go about keeping that same momentum, that same intensity you had at home when you bring it here to Boston?
I mean, there is the challenge of playing somebody, for now the fifth time in a row. It's a challenge of playing in May. It's the responsibility in part for both of those things. And there's no mystery of how this game tomorrow night in the Boston Garden is going to be played. Not so long ago, we were in a position to close out a series at home, too, against the Miami Heat. And so you get the probable conversation that's being had in, over on their side of their side of the fence with how they just want to end it and stay here in Boston. And the physicality side of it, trying to maintain that, is all a part of that.
You talk about playing the team 5 times. How do you stop the back and forth that goes on? Like you're watching guys get chippy, you're watching guys kind of talk to one another and maybe throw each other off each other's game. How do you keep them focused on, both young teams, on the task ahead?
I mean, I don't think it's crossed the line. I think it's inevitable. You see this deeper playoff series go on. You kind of get tired of each other. And it's just, some of it's just human nature. Some of it's just that competitive drive, the pressure of the moment. It's a greater stage each game you play, and it equals a higher level of anxiety. And I don't feel, from my side of it, that we've crossed the line and lost focus because of the physicality.
Sure.
What do you have them do today? What's today about?
Today is a few things. We have a low-minute group that will be practicing at Harvard and getting a sweat. We have a team meeting at 6 o'clock or 5:30, to go through some tape and paint up, fix up type stuff, and then we'll go enjoy a team dinner together and call it a day. Last night we played 8 guys. Their fresh side, their body, their health is most on my mind. The low-minute guys, because you just never know when somebody's going to be needed, doing their part of the job as we talk. And I like the team part of just being with them, have a nice dinner, and enjoy each other's company and get ready to go play tomorrow.
Brett, are you expecting, you say like these series are kind of like chess matches, so to speak. Are you expecting them to go with a different lineup tomorrow based off of what you had?
I mean, I have so much respect for Brad, and think he's a terrific coach, and we respect their team, and so how they choose to make adjustments, toggle with lineups. I feel equipped to handle whatever we see. We too might look at some different things, but in general, we don't know about Larkin's health as an example. Like, what impact does that have as well? At the moment, you see a rhythm beat to how they're playing defense. You see Joel go to the scorer's table, and it's a magnet to Aaron Baines, and it's just, apples for apples with those two. Whether they pivot out of some of those things or how they react to Larkins, we'll learn more about.
How do you approach the challenges of adjustments? Because if it were the regular season and you rolled out TJ for one game and it worked, cool, and then you move on to the next opponent. But if you find an adjustment that works, you can anticipate the Celtics will then try to counter that. So how do you, once you find something that works, how do you, is it tricky, or how do you approach those challenges?
It isn't unless you make it. And, to sort of act, react, that's part of all of our jobs. But to predict, they're going to come up with some clever way to exploit TJ because we played him yesterday, that isn't on my mind. We'll all go through different things. Like I decided to, move Joel off Horford a little bit because Horford's mobility of pick and pop threes and creating those long closeouts for 7-2, running back out at Al, didn't seem to be that successful. And, you know, Brad will be doing his thing. Well, what's that mean, you know, with TJ? You know, it's clear they try to pick on Marco when I put him in the game and try to, you know, do that. Or they try to post up JJ, you know, with Marcus Smart. Like, we get it. We don't feel caught off guard by most of it. How they react to the TJ inclusion, as I said to Keith a moment ago, I feel that we'll be equipped to handle it. And, I mean, it's going to be a great night in the Boston Garden. I'm really looking forward to it.
How do you go about?
You went with Ersan, I guess, as the first big off the bench last night. How did you think that worked out? Did you like what you got out of that?
I did, and you know, I look down the bench and I have such respect and fondness for Amir Johnson. He's unbelievable people. The Boston people would know what I'm saying. He's incredibly good person and teammate. And so, like, you always feel with Amir, more as it relates to Joel at times, you know, as opposed to, like, Ersan and Dario going down, you got something special on a bench. With Ersan, it's no secret, you know, the reason we would do that is to stretch the floor, maybe hunt some threes a little bit easier. We haven't been able to do that. I credit Boston's defense. They've really done a good job of taking away our threes and guarding our threes. You know, we really haven't jumped into this series at all shooting the ball well from the three-point line. And we have been helped because we have offensive rebounded, you know, and maintained some more possessions, and we have helped in sort of creating turnovers yesterday to generate more possessions. But the Ersan part is mostly in relation to, like, scoring and hunting threes.
How do you go about slowing down Jason Tatum's offensive game? I mean, it seems like you've thrown a lot of things at him, and he seems to come out on top each time.
He is really good. Like, he is really good. He's got a package that he shouldn't at such a young age. You know, like, they post him, he'll come off and, like, you know, hit spot up threes. He's got stuff off a live ball that has caught me off guard where he really can dance in an isolation situation. That set that they put him in, you know, in the fourth period gave us problems.
Sure.
And, you know, how we stop him is completely related to team. It's completely, I think, related to sort of schematic stuff with some of the sets that they feature him in. You know, there's some of, you know, we might put TJ on him or, you know, go length with Ben Simmons or Cove, you know, type answers as well. But what you should hear the loudest is he's really good.
You mentioned this last night, I think maybe talking about when you had an answer about Rob Covington, the team packed its bags after the game last night. What goes into, I know this might seem like minutia, but a decision like that, and was that part of a mindset thing that you wanted the team to have just going into that game last night with the bags packed and then trying to force the series?
I mean, it was really all of it. You know, I have a great front office, and, you know, Elton Brand puts his 2 cents in about, you know, should we send out the itinerary, like group me, you know, like here's the itinerary. You know, Brian comes in and says, you know, what happens if we, you know, put him on a plane? And, like, what do you think about that, coach? I said, I think it's a hell of an idea, you know, somewhere between Elton and Brian and, you know, me stamping off on it and Alan Lumpkin, you know, from a logistics standpoint, organizing that quick. The plane's waiting for us. And it's a messaging thing I have found. I like waking up here in Boston. It's a logistic thing as well. It seems more efficient, apart from the mental, you know, messaging that I hope to create. I wouldn't read too much into it. It is pretty cool that it worked out the way it did, but it happened through that series of events.
Coach, to go back about TJ, you've been adamant about Ben being a point guard. So it must have been a hard decision to go with TJ and Ben more of a, well, even a 4. Can you just talk about?
Sure.
Thank you.
But yeah, sure. You know, when you looked at how we played, Ben was still the point guard.
Yeah.
So we should start with that.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, he's a 2, he's a 1, he's a 1. He's like they're still like dribbling up the floor, and one can play off on the other. I think when you look at like made baskets or after or free throws, that's my, as a coach, sort of assessment. You know, who's the ball carrier? Who's the primary ball carrier? Who's the point guard in that environment? You know, Ben was with TJ. And so I see it being a complementary thing, not something that's disturbing or challenging or hard for me. It isn't at all. It's good. I hear your question, but it really, in my mind, doesn't shake out like that.
Do you have to, with Ben, his words, paraphrasing, he said that sometimes he gets inside of his head a little bit. Do you have to kind of say to him, maybe going forward, hey, remember what you did in Game 4. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff, and have him concentrate on what he was in that game?
I walk this line with Ben carefully, in that I'm calculated on when do I just leave him alone, and when do I feel like I have something that I can help him with. And I err on leaving him alone. And I think for me, with that sort of philosophy, I hope when I do say something, he hears me loudly. And because of the history I have had with Ben's family, you know, for 30-something years, I've known, you know, there's an intimate sort of relationship with Australia and his family and so on. Like, I feel strong that I know who he is, and I feel quite strong about what buttons to push. And I walk that line. He's prideful, so at times, sometimes, you know, he does overthink it. You may not sort of see it in his face, because he is most times quite poised and almost stoic, you know, in how he plays. But I think because I know the person, like I know the person and the history of the family, it lets me coach him better.
Brett, TJ kind of had an off-shooting night last night. You think that was a result of moving to the 3, or, I mean, do you think that affected him at all?
Who had an off-shooting night?
Excuse me, JJ. I had the wrong first one.
J. You had the wrong first letter.
Yeah, your first letter. Yeah.
That's all right. You got the second J right.
Yeah, I got the second one.
I hear you. No, I hear you, Keith. I think in general, you know, in general, we haven't shot the ball well. He does work. Like, you know, he's having to deal with Marcus posting up, and he's so competitive, and he's tough, and he's got a low center of gravity. Like, you wouldn't like anoint JJ as an athlete, but you certainly would anoint him as intellectually gifted, incredibly competitive, smart with defensive schemes, can make up for whatever lack of, you know, vertical jump or foot speed just because he's that tough and that smart. I think that as you're having to guard, you know, those Celtics wings that are big and they're really trying to make him guard, it could take a little toll on the offensive side. But I think in general, you know, we just haven't shot the ball well. And oftentimes you're looking, it's not like, you know, people are draping on their shot. There are lots of open looks that we need to make. And, you know, you could almost sing the same song at times with the free throw line. You know, I think we're leaving points on the table.
Why do you think that is, leaving the points on the table?
I don't know. I wish I did, yes.
Is there any cringe factor when you see Al in the post with Willoughby, Ilyasova, or one of those guys? It seems like he kind of bodies up to get himself in like a veteran would do.
Us guarding
us
Al
guarding
in the post,
yeah.
He scares the heck out of me. But you know what? Take him kind of anywhere. I am just, not shocked is too dramatic. I am reminded in painful ways how good he has been. Like, he really is good. He really is good. I hope, and I know Boston knows, my old friend down in Atlanta, you know, his coach Mike Budenholzer used to tell me about it, and, you know, really understand the importance of his leadership, his defense, his offense, his versatility. Brad does a good job of, you know, posting him or picking and popping him. And so when you come in, you ask the question, does Al Horford scare you out of post with Ilyasova on him? Heck yeah, he does. But now let's go the other way. Does it scare you when Joel's on him and he picks and pops to the three-point line and Joel's got to run out at 7-2 and go, yep. And there's not many areas on the court, really defensively too, because I just have tremendous respect for what he does defensively, that I don't have a respectful, appreciation for Al Horford. He just is A+ to me all over the place.
Without revealing too much, is he like on the top of your list in terms of closing down your defensive approach?
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I wouldn't sort of like rank him up. We all get what he does as far as, picking on somebody, saying if this guy does this, we're going to win or lose. We haven't done that. I think, their weaponry is global because you could sing the same song for Jason,